Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day comes from Fox News reporter Peter Doocy, not only getting a question in, but also getting his question answered surrounding classified documents. I know, folks, some of you just almost spit out your coffee. You're that shocked. And trust me, I'm just as shocked as you are, but wait till we get to the clip. As always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button, leaving us a short, sweet comment down below. If you're unsure of what to write something as simple as good morning. We got an awesome community here on the Bald Brad channel that would love to engage and interact with you, not only in the live chat, but also the comment section below, as well as myself. So your help and support would be greatly appreciated. Well, as I mentioned, again, folks, our lead story of the day is Peter Doocy is in the building, folks, not only getting a question in, which is a huge deal because Karine Jean-Pierre has been blowing off Fox News during this classified document scandal, but also getting a question answered regarding these classified documents, which is even a greater deal because Karine Jean-Pierre hasn't answered any questions whatsoever about classified documents. Well, Peter Doocy, being a little cunning, being a little sneaky here, goes, hey, somebody else is on the podium. I might as well give it a shot here, asking a question about classified documents. And John Kirby actually gives an answer, and I'll put it in air quotes, and you'll see why. Let's go ahead and roll the tape.
John, how hard is it to walk out of a skiff with classified material?
Everybody who goes into a skiff knows what the requirements are to go in, and knows what the requirements are to go out. You can't bring personal devices in, and you certainly can't leave with material unless that material is appropriately secured.
And
I promise we'll continue here because Peter Doocy gets one more question in. Folks, the question was about how hard is it for classified documents basically to come out of a skiff. It's either really hard, really easy, but he gives some sort of cockamamie political answer, as you can imagine, because if he says it's really hard, then how the hell did Joe Biden get the classified documents out for decades? Literally since the 70s. They're just laying around his apartment, laying around his house, laying around the Biden-Pence Center, wherever, in his garage. So, it must be relatively easy if we're finding out it happened with Trump, if we're finding out it happened with Mike Pence, if we're finding out it happened with Joe Biden. Who else just has classified documents laying around? But hell, clearly, you can't go in. Everybody knows the rules, blah, 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 all these things. Here's Peter Doocy's other question.
usually what happens to someone in the chain of command if they do leave with a piece of classified material that they're not supposed to have or that is not secured?
I think if you do it inadvertently, or you do it and you realize you don't have it secured in a locked bag, or you self-report, which is exactly what the president did, self-reported. But you self-report, and you make sure that that you get the material back secured where it belongs, and that you're transparent about it.
Two more questions.
Okay, so no, not really what took place or what would happen here. And there's some people that watch the Bald Brad Show that have security clearance, and I'm sure you could chime in the comment section below what would happen to you if this happened to you. So it's not just, oh, well, yeah, self-report it. What happens after that self-reporting is the question here, John, that you didn't want to give an answer to? Because it's a great question, because you want to see if there's a double standard between somebody being the president and somebody being, and don't take this the wrong way, but like a low-level person that's handling classified information on what would happen to them. I'm sure there's a double standard, folks. And even if you're a Democrat versus a Republican, there's a double standard. We all saw that with Donald Trump. Donald Trump's Mar-a-Lago house gets raided by the FBI, but Hunter Biden's house is left alone. Other properties that Joe Biden has is left alone. All those things are left alone. No raids here. No FBI just swarming and flocking, making a big deal over it. Well, not everyone was buying Kirby's explanation here, folks. However, a number pointed out that the fact that even if Biden had self-reported, he hadn't done so until years after he took possession of the classified documents. Not years, decades, literally decades, like since the 70s. Quote, the White House did not self-report. Biden's lawyers called the White House, which informed National Archives. DOJ only learned of this evident crime because NARA's Inspector General learned of it and called DOJ. Team Silver Alert was hoping NRA and ARA, rather, would bury this, meaning they just wanted to go under the rug. Nobody would find out about it. Quote, I'm just guessing that a lower-level government employee who took classified information, kept it in his garage, and then self-reported several years later wouldn't get off with zero punishment. Exactly what I was just saying. George Washington University law professor Jonathan Turley pointed out that Kirby, who is currently serving as the coordinator for strategic communication for the National Security Council, was clearly allowed to answer questions that Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre had referred to at basically to the White House counsel for everybody else to get their questions answered regarding classified documents. What I mean by this is literally he basically threw Karine Jean-Pierre under the rug, like greatly, because she's been saying, oh, well, I can't talk about it. It's a legal matter. You know, we can't mention this. We can't mention that. And here you have like somebody just kind of going, oh, yeah, you know, this is about classified documents. Yeah, you can't really take them in and out of a skip. People know the rules, this or that. She won't take a question about it, which brings us into our second segment of the day, where now she's on the podium. So right before this, John Kirby was literally standing in that exact same spot as she was, taking questions about classified documents that you just saw in our first segment from Peter Doocy. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe button, folks, if you haven't already. Well, she's asked a question here from, I believe, NBC reporter regarding Joe Biden's regrets and classified documents, and you'll see her response here and how it differs from John Kirby. Let's go ahead and roll it.
Thanks so much. The president said last week he has no regrets in his handling of classified documents. When he saw how forthcoming former Vice President Mike Pence was, his team was, about the fact that they did find classified documents in his Indiana home, did the president regret not telling the public about this immediately and instead letting it leak in the press?
So I'll say this, and again, I'm going to be very prudent. I'm going to be very consistent here. We have seen statements from the president's personal lawyers. We have seen statements from the White House counsel's office that laid out, believe there was a timeline that laid out how this process went from our point of view. I'm just not going to go beyond that. I will refer you again to
Oh, we know the timeline all the way back in November 2nd before the midterm elections, and you guys neglect to tell anybody about it. And then you found more in December and still neglect to tell anybody about it. And then it was leaked by an outlet, and then everybody found out about it. And then after everybody found out about the first set of classified documents, you knew about the second set of classified documents, but neglect to tell anybody about that while you're still pushing the whole story that you're being transparent, you're following all the rules and all these other things. Don't give me this crap, Karine. You're a bunch of liars there, man. You are all a bunch of liars, and that's all you've been doing for 2 years.
Those documents. And I will just reiterate what the president has said. He takes classified documents, classified information very seriously, and I'm just not going to go beyond what
I keep saying you can't continue that message. If you notice, she stopped using the message of transparency because she realized that, hell, her own boss, the own administration is not being transparent, so she's not using that word anymore. I mean, she literally used it for an entire week. And no, now it never comes out of her mouth. But then she's going to say he's being serious. How can you say he's being serious when literally for decades, longer than I've been alive, this guy has been taking classified documents to his private properties and just leaving them there and not reporting it like John Kirby said to do? Not reporting it. No. His lawyers reported. He didn't report crap. He didn't even know they existed, supposedly, which doesn't make sense now because of his dementia. I mean, hell, he doesn't even know he's president. I'm not even sure he knows that the president actually exists as a position of an elected office. But, you know, that goes beyond the point here. But, you know, she's going to continue to charade here, folks, that it's all serious. He took it as serious as possibly can be, even though it keeps happening. 4 times it's happened now, maybe 5. We don't know yet. Let's continue.
he has said. I'm not going to go beyond what has been shared in statements by his lawyers.
A number of lawmakers reacted yesterday to the revelations by former Vice President Mike Pence with some disbelief, saying that writ large, the system is broken when it comes to top officials handling classified documents. Does the president, does the administration agree with that assessment? And does the president, as the commander-in-chief, feel it's his responsibility to do something about it?
So look, I know my colleague was just asked this question, and I do want to be very careful. This is an ongoing legal matter here.
Well, I'm not asking
no,
about the president's
it is
case,
actually.
But
I hear you.
Speaking, here we have a number of current and formers who have now acknowledged, yes, they found classified documents in their possessions in places that are not secure, the nation's deepest secrets.
I
Does
hear the
president
question.
feel like he needs to address this?
I hear the question, and we're talking about the system. You're asking about how do we move forward. You're asking, like, what does the president think? And I am telling you that because there is I have to be really careful because this is a legal matter that is happening currently. And for me to comment on anything that's related to an ongoing investigation, that is not something that I can do from here.
The president.
This is where I'm so confused. And actually, I think I've even addressed this here since this whole thing has started. She's saying she can't talk about it, right? She's saying she's not going to elaborate or even talk about the president's thoughts. But she's going to continue to say what the president said about taking things seriously. And the president has at least addressed some of the questions, I don't put that in air quotes, some of the questions sporadically. So she's allowed to talk about this. The DOJ said out that nobody said that she can't talk about it. She's saying it's a legal matter, which is true, but you could still give your opinion on things to say, like, yeah, you know, the system is broken. I would say that it's broken, you guys. If Trump did it, Mike Pence just came out, had classified documents. Joe Biden's had classified documents for decades. And they're just sitting around people's homes in their garage in like boxes next to their Corvette and stuff. Like, of course it would be broken then. If it keeps happening, yes, it is broken and needs to be fixed. People are, maybe hell, somebody should be fired. I don't know who it is, but somebody got to go get in some trouble here because, like I said, there's a double standard. If you're president, it's okay. But if a lower level guy like you or I were to make the same move, you would never hear from us again, right? We'd be like sent to Epstein Island. Something weird would happen. Again, if you have classified documents or if you're handling classified documents at some point in your life, what are the consequences of all this? Leave us in the comments below. Let's continue.
The president had said he was going to talk to us about this soon. He did make brief comments last week, but does he have any plans to answer the questions that we've been posing to him, to perhaps hold a press conference so that we can ask him a range of questions?
Totally understand the question. I don't have anything to preview right at this time on any opportunities for the president to address this. But as you all know, and I know questions were shouted earlier, there's many opportunities that you all have with him where he takes all of your questions, and he has over the past 2 weeks.
Answered questions
I
about this. We've been shouting them.
No, he's answered. Actually, when he was in California, he took a question. When he was in Mexico City, he was asked it. He took a question. The day after that, the day after that, he took a question. So I'm just saying that it's not that he hasn't addressed this at all. He has. I just don't have anything to preview on a potential press conference or anything like that, and an opportunity that you all will have to hear from him directly. But again, he has been asked a question a couple of times, and he's answered it, and you all have heard from him on that.
This is a constant theme from this Biden administration. It's so disingenuous, you guys. Oh, well, he's answered some questions. Like check that one off. Oh, he answered your question because he said that he has no regrets. So that was enough because he's answered it twice in like 3 weeks here. And if you notice, they do the same thing. And I'll give you another example. It has nothing to do with these classified documents of them pulling the same stunt. Is him going to the border. He went to the border, you guys. He didn't talk to any illegal immigrants. He didn't see any illegal immigrants. They literally kicked out thousands of illegal immigrants days before he arrived to the place, El Paso. And now they can use it as an ammo. Well, he went to the border. What do you mean he didn't go to the border? He went to the border. Yeah, he saw a lot of things. So this is what they do. This is exactly what they do. And now they're pulling the stunt here, which is a political stunt, a political move, a PR move going, no, he's taking your guys' questions. You can't say he's not taking your questions. He literally took two people's questions. What do you mean? And that's what you just saw there. It's so disingenuous. It's so disgusting. It's so wrong. And honestly, it's childish. It's like a type of argument that you would hear almost from a high schooler going, well, you said this, or, well, you did this. Yeah, well, I addressed it. Yeah. I mean, I answered it. I gave you an answer. Well, you gave me an answer, but you didn't give me an answer to the question that I asked, which is so typical from this administration, so typical from Karine Jean-Pierre. Well, moving into our last segment of the day, folks, if you recall, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis was basically going to do an audit on state universities and colleges that have been pushing this woke agenda of critical race theory, affirmative action, and diversity, equity, inclusion, and then kind of report the numbers back on basically the exorbitant amount of spending of taxpayer dollars that's been just thrown out the door. Well, we finally got some answers here for y'all, and folks, it is big numbers. It is really big numbers, which we knew. But as always, support the show by hitting that like and subscribe button if you haven't already, and leaving us a comment down below. Hit up the live chat, folks. People are writing and talking over there. You're a fellow conservative Republican. You're a freaking Minuteman, a countryman, a patriot. Engage with them a little bit here. Well, millions of taxpayer dollars spent on DIE and CRT initiatives at Florida public universities. Totally shocked. Not really. I live in the state of California, folks. Literally, I want to say like 8 to 10 years ago. It might be longer at this point. There was a university in Southern California that hired somebody to basically handle the diversity of the university and was going to pay them, I think it was like $600,000 or $700,000 a year to just make sure that the university was meeting their quotas. Basically saying, oh, that we need so many blacks, we need so many whites, so many Asians, Native Americans, all this stuff. I mean, it's so crazy. Well, in 2022, the 2023 school year, the State University System of Florida spent millions of taxpayer dollars on critical race theory and diversity, equity, inclusion programs, according to a report obtained by the University of Florida's student newspaper. How about spending that money on improving our roads? How about spending that money on improving our infrastructure in those states rather than this nonsense going out there that people would actually use in their life? How about that? The controversial programs received, you guys sitting down for this? $28 million statewide, over half of which was taxpayer funded. Just, you guys, if we did a deep audit of our government, the amount of waste is just, your head would freaking spin. And for some reason, you guys, we just let this go. I don't get it. I've hounded about it. I've yelled about it. I've preached to the skies about this whole thing on just government spending, and nobody cares yet. Nobody cares yet. And we have it on recording here, you guys, on multiple episodes of me losing my you-know-what over this stuff because it's wasteful. It doesn't need to be happening. And you know what? At some point, they're going to take your money, you guys. At some point, they are going to take your money. I want to be clear here because we got it on recording. So when it happens, and I'm in some doomsday bunker because the government wants to take your money by increasing taxes or just not paying out your Social Security to 100% of what you should get. They might give you 60%, 70%, which is probably what's going to happen here because they got to pay for all this stuff. You know, I'll make sure I just play that episode for everybody. Well, on December 28th, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis released a memo requiring that states, colleges, and universities to report by January 13th all spending on DUI and CRT initiatives. And I believe it was around that time that we actually covered the original story of that very statement going out. In a statement earlier this month, DeSantis and Florida must ensure school systems are responsive to parents and to students, not partisan interest groups, and we must ensure that our institutions of higher learning are focused on academic excellence and the pursuit of truth, not the imposition of trendy ideology. Damn right, Ron. According to the report, the University of Florida staffed 43 positions related to DEI initiatives and spent nearly $5.3 million. It's almost hard to say, you guys. Like, it takes the air out of me. It's an exorbitant amount of money to do this. $3.4 million of that total was provided by the state. The College Fix reported. The university's most significant expenditure was almost $1.1 million for the chief diversity officer, which was funded more than 70% by taxpayers. Meaning taxpayers are paying roughly $720,000 to this person, give or take, maybe a little bit less than that. Right? I just did that off the top of my head. $700,000, you guys, for a chief diversity officer. What? But hey, this is what happens when you let government run the show, folks. Thank God you got Ron DeSantis going. I'm tired of the BS, tired of the wasteful spending. The University of South Florida spent the most on the controversial programs at $8.6 million. The university's Diversity and Inclusion Office received more than $1.1 million from taxpayers. How about you just get rid of that whole office? Just fire him on the spot. Get rid of it. You don't need it. Stop it. You don't need it at all. It's a waste of money. The college with the largest enrollment in the state, the University of Central Florida, spent $4.48 million on DEI and CRT initiatives. I mean, we're just throwing money out the door here left and right, aren't we? The largest expense for Florida A&M University was the entirely taxpayer-funded $1.8 million for its Center for Environmental Equity and Justice. I'm trying to stay level-headed here, folks. I'm trying to stay level-headed here. An assistant professor at Florida Atlantic University received more than $10,500 from the state to lecture a gender and climate change course, which explores how gender inequality across the globe is related to environmental damage and climate change, and examines feminist, indigenous, and LGBTQ climate justice movements along the gendered implications of global policy and practices related to the environment. What the hell is that? What? You have these people, you guys, I think they're going to be like heroes, right, for climate change. And then they spend their time doing this? Like, nobody cares about this, and the people that do care about it are clearly far left. And the people that aren't far left to take this class, they probably just want an easy A. Like, I literally took a class in college that was called Pastimes, and it was just about leisure. That's all it was. Yeah, no, I'm not kidding. It was literally about leisure. There was a class in college when I was doing my accountancy program for leisure. It was one of those capstone classes, those electives that you just go into because you're like, oh yeah, well, I mean, it's not hard to like kind of look at the pastimes and find things that you look at as like leisure and fun and all those things. I mean, there's a little bit more involved in philosophical ideology and stuff like that. It was kind of a cool class, but I'm going off on a tangent here. But the point is, it was a waste of time. Like, what the hell? Why would I need that? Same thing here. And I would like to say maybe looking at leisure is a little bit more important than this whole thing. So on January 18th, DeSantis notified universities and colleges they must also report all funding spent on gender dysphoria by February 10th. Ooh, the saga continues, folks. Just like the classified documents, the numbers will be out. Look, they're spending millions. It's a waste of money. This can go to really good causes. This could go to a lot of citizens in Florida, Floridians, sitting there that might need the help, that might need the money, get the roads improved, get the public school system up and running in a better, get rid of all these LGBTQ activist teachers, not teachers, activist teachers. If they want to be teachers and they're just LGBTQ, that's a different story. But when you're an activist pushing an agenda like gender ideology, gender theory upon our kids, making them read these pornographic freaking books and watching cartoons masturbate like they want to do in New Jersey between 2nd and 3rd grade. It's ridiculous. It's wrong. It's disgusting. They're performing drag shows. They're doing these underground clubs, part of the LGBTQ trans plus elemental P alphabet soup community that you don't have no idea about. The admin has no idea about, where they're bringing on drag queens, stripping in front of these children, having them tip their lunch money, your hard-earned money, into their thong or into their breast with air quotes because they're men disguised as women. All these things, folks. It's silliness. It's crazy. We live in a crazy world, folks. I mean, we live in a freaking really weird... Somewhere, somebody stepped on the butterfly and we just flipped realities with somebody. Hell, I don't know. But let me know what you think about all this in the comments below. Thank you so much for engaging in the live chat in the comments, hitting that like and subscribe button. You guys are freaking great. We are growing here at the show, folks. We are almost at 30,000 subscribers. I mean, it's hard to think. That's literally 2 hockey stadiums full of people. Almost 30,000 subscribers. I mean, think about that. Can you imagine where we're going to go here in a few years? Folks, it hasn't even been 2 years yet. It hasn't even been 2 years and we hit 30,000. I didn't even expect this after 5 years. We're growing. You guys are great. You're awesome. I love you all. I read the comments. Thank you so much. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Paul Brad Show.